thanks again for joining us for another episode of Educators Roundtable. Often we have so many questions about what's happening in education today, what's happening in education tomorrow, and it's all centered around a pandemic. Across the United States, I talk to my clients all the time in K-12 and in colleges, and we talk about what measures are in place right now for students regarding safety. What measures are in place for staff and parents. And then we talk about academics. What are we doing right now in academics to help support, furthering our kids' education? How much time are we spending? Why? Because teachers are stressed. They have to teach students sometimes virtually while they're still teaching students in the classroom. Some of them are doing traditional, and we're still sending students home with no other available resources. So today, we're going to talk about all of that and more here at the Educators Roundtable. So let me introduce my guests, and I'm telling you, you guys better watch out. These ladies are amazing. They are rock stars in education. They have several years of experience. So let me introduce to you guys Lisa Robinson. So hey, Lisa, how are you?
Hey, Christine, I'm good. How are you today?
I am outstanding. I cannot wait to hear your response to these questions, our conversations. I think everyone's going to be really excited. I love to get a teacher's or an educator's perspective on our topics when we discuss them. So let me introduce our other guest, which is Trisha Barnes. So Trisha, how are you?
Hi, Christine. Hi, Lisa. Good evening, everyone.
Guys, I'm going to tell you, we're going to have a rock star conversation. So Lisa, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone and tell them a little bit about you?
Okay, I am Mrs. Robinson to the teachers and to my staff. I have been in education since 2000. I am a certified teacher. I have a master's degree in education. I have a bachelor's degree in child development. I also have my administrative certification in education to be an administrator. Recently, I was a master teacher to where I taught part-time half a day and I coached teachers the other half of the day. And that is who I am as far as my education.
I love it. I don't know. I think we're going to have a lot to offer. I think I like your background and your perspective on things are going to be a full 360 perspective. And I think that's what viewers and other educators need to see. So Trisha, what about you?
Well, little old me coming behind Lisa with all of that. Lisa and I actually met on the journey of doing master teacher duty. So that was exciting. But I am an educator who has been in education for over 25 years. I do hold a master's degree in K through 8 literacy education, as well as a certification to teach preschool. I am excited about where we're trying to take education, but I'm also a little disheartened with where we are right now. With having said all of that, I'm so excited to be on your show today, Christine. I'm hoping that we can bring a fresh perspective as to what's happening so that we can make sure that everyone is supporting our education. While we're out here laboring, y'all, we need your support, honey. We're trying to do the thing now.
I love that. I tell people all the time, being in IT and being an educator and formerly a school district leader, that I've never gotten away from what it was the reason why I went into the classroom. I didn't traditionally set out to be a teacher. I was a chemist and they were looking for science teachers. And so my father, who was an educator, said, I need you to give back. And the first thing I said to him was, Dad, teachers don't make a lot of money. I make a lot of money as a chemist. Like, I'm not going to make any money. And my dad said, well, if you're coming back here to Michigan from Delaware, I'm going to need you to give back. And so I did. And my give back, I thought was going to be like 2 years, and it ended up being now 20 plus years. Right. Wow. So I just say to myself, like, was it a great idea? And it was the greatest experience I've ever had. And I really enjoyed working with students. So I commend you guys for still being on the front line in the classrooms, helping students and helping other teachers be more effective teachers. So on behalf of me and people like me, thank you so much for your time and everything you put into education, because it takes a big heart to do it, for sure.
Yes.
Well, listen, guys, we're going to get started. We've got a packed night. Okay. So many things we're going to be talking about. So our first question. So we're going to talk about what academic changes has your school district made to ensure that it's engaging content. And the reason why I asked that question first is I'm looking at it from a parent's perspective. I look at it from a teacher's perspective, and I look at it from a student's perspective. Depending on the age of the teacher, and sometimes not, the content that's being taught in classrooms now, because it's so demanding with technology and the things that we need to do, are we really engaging our students? Are we really still closing learning gaps in the classroom? Are we really using data to drive decision making? Or are we just basically just trying to teach and get through the day? So, Lisa, I'm going to start with you because your facial expression says it all. Like, I don't even know. I don't know. Says it all, Lisa. What are your thoughts?
Yes. Because I have one big pet peeve right now with the district, with administration, because teaching third grade last year, I had a lot of students that were reading actually on kindergarten, first grade level. So they were several grade levels behind. But we were still expected to differentiate instruction, but based on third grade materials. But if they can't read, and if they don't know how to add, but they wanted me to teach them multiplication, they didn't want me to double back to teach them to teach the addition so that they can learn multiplication. So that's where it's not old school, but I kind of stepped outside of what the curriculum was. So don't you say nothing. I'm not to teach them their addition. They sang songs. 1 + 1 is 2. 2 + 2 is 4. 3 + 3 is 6.
Hey.
We would do
I love it.
Stop it, Trish. I had different songs for the threes, for their fours to learn their multiples. We did the songs and then kind of tried to get into the content. So, I mean, the question that you asked, it's very challenging for us as teachers. And then we have our parents. They don't quite understand the new content and the new way of teaching. They can't really support the kids when they get home, if the parents are even home when the kids get home.
You know what? And I think it's a couple things that you said that I'm just like so engaged with right now. First thing is, one, I love that you put it to music. People don't understand that our kids learn so many different ways. And I always tell people, you try one way, try, another way. But for you to put it to music, a kid who just didn't get it the first time, he may have gotten it the second time when you started singing it. So I love it. And I came into education, like I said, not as an educator. So I always think outside of the box. Exactly. So I think they should applaud you. Now, the other thing you said that's very much valid is our parents. And in urban education, that's like one of my major concerns that I'm constantly saying. We have so many different dynamics to being a parent that sometimes we don't show up for our kids when we need to show up for our kids. At home, like we've worked all day, we're exhausted. Sometimes your parent only has a 5th grade level education. They really don't have an understanding of mathematics or science, grammar. And so they're really not that helpful. And it makes them feel indifferent about being a parent, a person of authority, when their kid finds out they don't understand math or their science or their English. So it's like a catch-22, and it's a little difficult. So we're going to dive into that a little bit more later. So I'm gonna put a pin in that one because that's like a much broader conversation. I feel like that's another show, and we need to come back and talk about that. Like that's another show. So
that's
Trisha, it is. I mean, it is. So Trisha, what do you think about what's happening and how we're ensuring that the content that we're offering to students is engaging?
One of the things that I have found myself becoming is an entertainer. So being a teacher, of course, is a calling. It's not necessarily just a career. But I found myself having to compete with the social media aspect of how our students learn. So with that being said, I am telling jokes. I'm telling songs. I'm using figurative language. I'm what they say, engaging with students on their levels and their third graders. So my classroom is a very comical place. Why? Because standing in front of a live person receiving instruction has become an antiquated practice because our students learn from technology. They are on YouTube, they are on Instagram, they are on Snapchat. And in their minds, what I see in media is the golden grail of everything. It's the way to learn, whether it's true or not. So for me, in order to make my classroom a safe space for learning to occur, I have to become something that's going to keep and maintain their attention. So that's one thing. But one of the things that I think our district has had to try to tackle is bridging the academic gap. And we know that that is a global concern because, as Lisa already spoke on, yes, they're coming 2 or 3 levels behind.
Yeah.
And COVID has just exacerbated this particular issue. So, of course, we have the after school tutoring. I mean, our district has employed teachers to go to homes to try to create relationships between the community and the school to bridge that gap or the distance that will exist in that area. Our district has offered Saturday school opportunities. So we're really trying to reach out to the parents in an area that they may be able to be more receptive to allow their stay with us so that we can make sure we're trying to do everything that we can on our end as an educational entity to make sure that the students get what they need. Because I think one of our greatest enemies at this time meaning this COVID pandemic, is time.
Yeah.
It's time. We don't have time on our side in the school day. We have time on our side in terms of the academic calendar. So time has become our greatest enemy.
That's right.
I agree with you 100%. And I think that's one of the major takeaways when we look at what it is that we're doing in education is time. Do we really have enough time? And I'm going to tell you right now, I think teachers deserve hazard pay on top of entertainment pay.
Exactly.
Because you're competing with social media and kids are expecting you to not only teach them, but to entertain them, to keep their attention and keep them engaged. When people say, well, are the students engaged? The first thing is, I don't know, but this is the way I'm going to teach. Now, Lisa, you threw in a song, Trisha over there doing stand up, it's a lot happening, right? To keep the kids going. But the thing is, once you do all of that, now I need to now look at, and I tell people, you have multiple level learners in classroom. As a teacher, you're looking at making data-driven decision-making. So you're putting kids in learning cohort groups. And then you're trying to model what it is that you need them to do. And it's so much. And on top of that, now you're an entertainer. So, I think school districts really need to take a closer look at what are you asking teachers to do and how efficient can they be when they're just one person. That's why I think paras are so important in classrooms right now. Parent support is so important in classrooms right now because the teacher can't be everything and the entertainer and the instructor, and the project manager, you're directing, you're wearing a lot of hats. So I applaud you guys. Okay, so our question number 2. So this is like a hot topic, and it's a hot topic because my girlfriend who's in Tennessee, her son contracted COVID. Yes, he's been vaccinated, but he still caught COVID, and they sent him home for like 5 to 7 days. The school is a traditional classroom, and they gave him packets. Not you can join the class virtually to still interact with the other students in the classroom. That was not an option. So I say, what accommodations are being made for students who are unable to attend a classroom? And it could be for various reasons. But to me, in this day and age, when we're like the 21st, 22nd century, are you kidding me that you still can't have access to your teacher virtually? Why are we still handing out those old packets? Because this is what happens. Not only is the teacher still teaching, but now she's got to grade this packet from 5 or 6 kids who contracted COVID. And then you still got to get those kids caught up because they didn't have the same work that the other kids had. So they're really doing double work. And that's triple work on the teacher. Exactly. So the question I still ask is, why won't you just let them join the class virtually? Just have it set up that if a kid has to go out, if they're sick, not just with COVID, but you're sick. What if you're just sick? It's flu season. I don't know what to say. But ladies, what are your thoughts? Lisa, don't fall on the floor. I'm going with Trisha first because Lisa's getting ready to fall on the floor. She's like, I got something to say on this one. Go ahead, Trisha.
And you know what? It's so funny because I promise you that you have a phone or something hovering over my Lisa's house, because we have had this conversation on many of occasions. It's like you were right there, Christine. I think that one of the barriers, one of the barriers that we're facing in education as instructors is the students' lack of access to technology. So
Mhm.
oftentimes it's not that the school district is not allowing the student to join virtually. It's that to play with the student having the correct technological device to be able to join us, whether it be a charging cord,
Mhm.
whether it be an iPad, whether it be the telephone, whatever modem or whatever we're using in order to get them to be successful technologically, sometimes that can be a barrier. So for our district, it's interesting because I was the first one in my school to have a case in my classroom. Okay, so now everything is new because this is something that no one has seen before. So even the
Mhm.
policies and procedures that are already in place have to be challenged on a case to case, school by school basis because
Mhm.
things look different from location to location. So, because I care about my students, I care about my coworkers, and I'm a passionate person, after the student had COVID was quarantined, then the other parents were notified. But because I had come into close contact with the student, I self quarantined. But I offered to my principal to still teach remotely. So I said, hey, I'm going to be at home until my COVID test comes back because I didn't want a parent to assume that I gave COVID to their child. So I
Mhm.
said, until my COVID test comes back, I want to teach virtually. It was so funny because teachers were walking past my classroom knowing that I was out, but they kept saying, Barnes, is that you? And they were walking past the screen. It's like, move out of the way. I'm talking to my kids. I'm talking to my kids because they hadn't anticipated me being on the screen teaching. And I had to make a choice, Christine, because I said, okay, Barnes, you're setting the standard of what it's going to look like for the rest of the year since I was the first one. So I made the choice to make sure that I still deliver quality instruction to my students via the screen, via Teams, to make sure that my students didn't have gaps in learning just because I chose to quarantine to make sure one was safe.
Oh my gosh, Georgia, I definitely applaud you. I think that's commendable. And I'm glad you stood up and you made a decision that you wanted to continue to teach your students. And that just, again, it just lends to what type of educators we have out here. That you said, you know what? I don't want a parent to think I gave the kid COVID, but I still want to teach my kids. I let me go home and teach them, right? And I'll do it virtually. So I applaud you. And I'm going to tell you, I don't understand why that's not the standard. I'm really oblivious to why this is just not the standard, especially with the shortage that we have of teachers. You would have so many teachers in the state of New York. They let go of 10,000 teachers because they only have traditional classroom. And these teachers said, well, and they told them, if you didn't get your COVID vaccination, we can't let you back. And they said, well, we have a choice to get vaccinated or
That's
not.
right.
You can't force us to do it.
Right.
And they were like, well, you can't come back. So they let go of almost 10,000 teachers. And I said to school districts all over the United States, you got 10,000 certified teachers sitting at home. You should be trying to hire them virtually to teach your classes where you don't have teachers. And they were all like, well, how is that going to work? It's going to work the same way as if they were in the same state you're in. They're teaching virtually. Wouldn't you rather have a certified teacher teaching your kids than a person who's not certified? I'm not understanding that. I'm just going to say I'd rather a teacher in New York teaching my kid algebra than a teacher who's a person who's a sub who really has very little knowledge, right? I don't know. So, Lisa, what's your thoughts? I don't, because Lisa's over there like, wait a minute, I need to get in on this. What's going on, Lisa?
Well, my first number one thing was technology, and I knew Trisha was going to speak on that because we are very, very close, and we talk on the phone all the time. So some students don't have the internet. Some students don't have laptops. We had one student that went through 3 laptops in like 3 months, so they don't take care of their equipment. So it's very hard for us to, connect with them if they don't have the equipment that they need to connect with us. Now, I've never done hybrid, but I can see, and it seems like Christine, like you just don't get it. Like, why can't you teach in the class? To me, even not having done it, it's hard to give the students the individual attention that they need. So if I'm trying to focus on the ones in class, and you still have behavior problems, you still have kids throwing stuff, you still have kids that don't have a pencil, and then I'm trying to focus on a screen as well, making sure they're not sleeping, making sure they are not eating while we're teaching, making sure that their mama calling them or they had a baby sister in their lap. And so to try to get them to focus, to try to get, it's just, and you say teachers have a lot, it is a lot. We really take on, when you said a lot of hats, I adopted my 5th grade student, like literally, but she was 16 when I adopted her. But both of her parents passed away when she was my student. And then when I moved to another school, her grandmother sent her to where I was. Then her grandmother passed away. And I ended up with her living in my own house. There are boundaries we do need to set with the kids, but sometimes the Lord will say something to you, or you just feel like you just have to reach out and touch a child. And that's what I did. But I'm saying that to say it's just difficult. They're hungry. Like we did virtual the whole time for COVID. And did you eat? No, I didn't eat anything. You go eat. I'm going to finish with these kids, and I'll on Teams, I'll call you into another one to explain it to you, what I just explained to them, because I need you to go eat, because you're not going to be able to listen and learn and get what it is that I'm trying to teach you, because you're hungry. And you got parents in the background, they got on their pajamas. It is just
say it now, Lisa.
I'm telling you, it's just they're cussing, they're fussing, they're telling the kid to listen, and you have to talk to the parents. Like, can you please mute your phone? Can you hang up and let the kid come back on? It's loud, the kids can't hear. Me and Trisha went to their homes. We even had the kids meet us at the mall for Christmas and got them all headphones.
Yes, we did.
And passed them out in bags and gave them to them. If they did real good on the screen, we physically went to their home. We drove around to their homes and gave them gifts and said, "Good job."
Out of our own pockets, Christine. The district did not reimburse us or pay us.
See, I'm going to tell you right now, you guys are straight up rock stars. I mean, I'm just going to say my heart goes out to you guys. I think you guys are an excellent example of educators. And I think you have to have a heart of gold to be an educator. You have to really have a passion. And I'm going to say, Lisa, both of us broke the law. I worked in high school and I took a kid in my home because I just couldn't take it. The mother was doing a lot of things with men in her household that wasn't good for the young lady. And she said that one of the men had tried to touch her. And that was the end of it. I went to the social worker.
Did you adopt her for real? Like,
no. I went to the social worker and I got temporary caregiver, something to keep her. And I kept her until she graduated from high school. And her kids know me as their grandmother.
Yes.
Because I love her. That's my baby girl. But I'm going to tell you, it was just heartbreaking. And that's the thing. There is a fine line. That's one thing. The other thing is, I'm going to tell you, working in IT with the school districts that I work with, that's one of the things we talk about, the integration of virtual teaching and learning. The first thing I did was I met with the parents, whether it be virtual or on site, whether I went to your house. We're going to talk through this. Your student has to have a place to learn. And where is that going to be? If it's in this closet, let's clean this closet out.
That's right.
But they cannot be in the middle of your kitchen where you walking around with your underwear on. We had a boyfriend that just walked through the kitchen naked. We literally had to send someone. We had been calling the mother. The mother didn't answer the phone. And finally, we just had to send somebody to the house and said, listen, your boyfriend can't be walking through the kitchen naked. First of all, the baby is here learning. And now all the kids is looking at this. The mother showed up with lingerie on one day. This is not Victoria's Secret show, honey. We need you to get it together. So it was so many dynamics, and I get what you're saying. The other thing is with the students tearing up the devices. You know, we went through that conversation. I ended up doing a lot of training sessions, not only with students, but with parents, created contracts. Nothing worked. And I said, you know what? We just got to understand we're going to lose some devices. Let's just count it right now. Let's order extra, amount of devices that we know because these kids are going to break them and lose them. I got Comcast to give everybody hotspots. T-Mobile, Sprint, they gave away phones. I mean, I was like working so hard to get hotspots in kids' houses so they have good connectivity. But it was just amazing. It's just, your heart goes out, to kids who want to learn. And unfortunately, the parent may be a different kind of parent, right? I'm not going to say they're not a good parent, but sometimes I think parenting classes would be so valuable to some people. But when you don't realize you have an issue, maybe, that's an underlining factor. Okay, so let me go to comments real quick. So we have a comment. Michael Belcher said, I applaud you guys. I wish educators, like all guys, were brought more to the forefront. I wish they had educators like you. You
Thank
guys
you.
are rock stars. And then he further went in to say, thank you for your service.
Oh,
I
thank
know. I love it because I'm going to tell you, you guys are definitely rock stars in what you're doing. I commend you. And I know when people watch this afterwards, they're gonna commend you as well. You guys are freaking amazing. So here's our next question. So with everything that's going on, I asked the question, the CDC says you have to be at least 3 feet apart in the classrooms. Well, if we didn't have enough room before CDC with the 3 feet. So when you're doing traditional, are you really doing 3 feet apart? Are you really giving your students time to wash their hands several times throughout the day? So that's the question. Like, you guys have been in these classrooms. Now, mind you, I'm going in and out of classrooms across school districts across the United States. But what are you guys seeing? Like right here in the state of Michigan, are we practicing it? Or are we kind of practicing it?
Well, the summer school, I taught summer school. Right now, I'm in between finding a place where I want to be. And we did. The hardest part was the 3 feet away from each other, even when they're outside on the playground. In the classroom was still a little difficult because I do carpet time and I was supposed to have a smaller amount of kids than what was actually assigned to me. And so they're really kind of sitting next to each other, but they did all wear their masks. They wore their masks in the classroom all the time. They didn't wear their masks when they were eating. And then when they were outside, they would pull them down so they can breathe. But other than that, they wore them. When they're walking in line, going to the restroom, they were 3 feet apart. They knew which lines to stand on as they went to the lunchroom. The lunch ladies had hand sanitizer standing right by the door before they got their lunches. They all had to. She made sure their masks were over their nose and that they hand sanitized their hands before they got their lunches. So for the most part, everyone is doing what they're supposed to do. Even the teachers, masks are on. We social distance ourselves from each other. We do elbow bumps or fist, nods. It was really hard for me because I'm a hands-on with the babies. I have this video where I do handshakes. Barnes would do dances with them when they come into the classroom. But I knew we had 20 kids and everybody had their own different handshake and I knew them all. She would do where whatever dance they did, she had to try to do. She's just a total comedian. So you should see her trying to do the dance.
I'm sure Trisha's a true entertainer. I love her. She's a true entertainer. So
you know what? I would have parents on virtual cracking up in the background. I'm like, I'm gonna start charging y'all, but you're getting a free show now. Wait a minute.
I love it. Trisha's like, look, I got to make sure we get everybody here. Everybody's pumped up and ready for class. And I'm going to tell you, that's the hardest thing to do right now is to keep our kids engaged. But the thing that's so confusing to me, I was talking to Shannon, my co-host, and in New York, in the state of New York, whenever you have an outbreak of COVID, they report it to the health department. And the health department then tracks it in the CDC tracker. And it's astonishing to me how many school districts across the United States are not doing that. As if they want to keep the numbers a secret, or they're giving them, like, so let's say you had 12, they'll say that they have 2. Well, don't do that. Right. If you have 12, then you have 12.
Exactly.
Exactly. And that's where the problem, because what they're going to do is they're going to track it back to see if your students or whomever contracted in your school district has a different variant of it. And that's how we're able to manage it. So, I go back to my days of being a chemist. I said, that's quality control. I'm not understanding why you won't assist us so that they can make data-driven decisions and come up with better solutions on how to protect us during this time. So, Trisha, other than the fact that you're dancing with all of your kids, and by the way, I'm probably going to need some lessons. I'm a horrible dancer. I'm going to need some lessons. Trisha, what's going on over there with you guys? How are you practicing safe distancing and the hand washing guidelines?
Well, our school has the entire floor and all of the walls, all the stairs marked so that the 3 feet distance is no hidden clue, right? So you already know, it's obvious. Stand on this step and not this step so that we can properly socialize. I make sure, as well as many other teachers, that we always had soap on hand. I don't know, I guess washing your hands is very therapeutic for our students. Many of them have washed off the color of their hand. They came in African American, left out Caucasian because you washed off all of your skin. So, just making sure that we are fully stocked with whatever we need. I don't want you to say we don't have any soap. Grab the Bath and Body Works soap, which I'm like, are you lying just for sitting hands? Because this is going to be expensive. They are making sure we have paper towels, making sure we have gallons of hand sanitizer, making sure that we have all of the things that we need so that we can sterile and sanitize environment. Lisa will tell you, I don't call it OCD. I call it being aware of germs. Yes. So being aware of germs, I have a Swiffer in my room. And my students have jobs. We have a class custodian. The class custodian knows I'm gonna spray the tables with disinfectant. The class custodian brings the trash can around, then gets hand sanitizers to make sure that everything is sterile and clean. Swiffer goes out once a week because those Swiffer mop things are expensive, but they go out once a week to make sure that we have a clean floor. But I'm doing things, as well as many of the other teachers in my building and my district, to make sure that we're not spreading the virus, but we need to contain it and making sure that it does not spread from person to person.
I'm going to say I absolutely love that. You guys are doing excellent. And I'm going to say I've never taught little people. I've only taught high school. And I've managed high schools and middle schools. I've managed K through 12, but I've never actually taught the little people. And I'm going to tell you, every time I used to go visit the teachers who taught the younger kids, I used to be like, oh, that's why you fell in love with teaching. Well, see, I dealt with the almost adult people.
Right.
When I taught mathematics and science. So I was the teacher they were kind of like dreading coming to my class. So I was kind of like you, Trish. I had to become an entertainer, but I had to show them how math and science mattered and how you could use it every day.
That's right.
So I taught real world application because, again, I didn't go to school to be an educator, and I wanted people to fall in love with science and mathematics the way I did, right? And that's the way I taught. So I find that, you can do a lot of those things. But to your point, I would have been nice if I could have signed somebody to be the cleaner, right? Those kids look at you like, Miss Burkett, I don't have time for that. I got to go meet Johnny at the locker. This is the only time I see my boyfriend. That's how they are. So I love elementary school because those kids would have looked at me like, this is not happening, lady. We are not doing it like this. Okay, we have comments.
Well, let me say that our middle school teachers, Christine, they do. One of the teachers came up with a very ingenious idea where she pays the children for their jobs and snacks. So, I mean, they don't get the jobs. I want to be a custodian. I want to be because they get paid in snacks. And that is like the best thing ever. I didn't know that a Starburst could, get you so much in life. But apparently,
oh my God. Honey, and let me tell you something. Candy works in high school too. But before we go any further, Katrina Clark. Hey, Clark. Hey, Clark. She said, outstanding conversation. Thank you, Clark, for joining us. Clark knows that's one of my BFFs. Like, that's one of my BFFs. She's like the amazing behind the amazing. But let me tell you something. Even in high school, you can get a lot with a candy, honey. You can get a lot with a candy. And it surprised the heck out of me what those kids would do for a Snickers. Right. I loved it. So I told them, be innovative, think of different ways that you can support your kids and motivate them to make better choices in classroom to stay focused. So I love all of that. Ladies, I'm going to tell you, we're running through these hot topics. So now we got to go to a quick commercial break.
Okay.
And then we're coming right back so we can talk about what's going on with the CDC in school districts.
All right.
Okay, guys. Okay, Hey, thanks and welcome back. So you guys just saw that I do Tech Talks with Chris on Saturday. We talk about the latest technology trends, not only in education, but the automotive, the beauty, and also home. There's a lot of technology things that are happening. We want to make sure that we share them and do the research for you. So listen, our conversation, we're going to now lend to what are we doing in regards to the CDC. So I'm going to welcome my guest back. Hey, Trisha. And we're going to wait for Lisa. So I'm going to say to you guys, that first segment, I mean, we're just nailing on through. And I'm going to tell you, I'm so excited about the conversation because it's a real conversation. You and Lisa are just absolutely amazing. And that's what I like to have. I just like to have real conversations with real educators about what's going on and how much support we need to extend to our teachers, to our students, to our parents during this time. And I'm just going to say, you guys are knocking it out the box. If I had a school, I would be stealing you guys right now. You would be like my lead teachers. You would be department heads because I think it's so important. Students learn better when they know that they're loved, right? They just do so much, but they have so much more respect for you. So, you guys know Nicole. Nicole's going to come on next week. She's going to talk about effective communication and etiquette, for our students, because our students are so hung up on social media. They think it's okay to just say anything or do anything. But I find that when you have a teacher that you love and you respect, you're less likely to be disrespectful to that teacher or even act up in their class. So even in high school, I used to tell my kids all the time, you better bring it in. If I don't get a hug with you coming through this door, you don't get into biology. And those big football players would pick me up like I was nobody, like a rag doll. Come on, Miss Burkett, so we can get this over with. Right. But what I told them is the hug is not just for you, it's for me too.
Exactly.
Maybe I needed a hug from. And so the kids, every time I would see them in the hallways, I guess the other teacher said, what is going on with Burkett and those kids? Those boys would just pick me up and hug me and say, Miss Burkett, we love you. I said, you know what? I love you guys too. But guess what? They didn't miss a biology class, or a science class. They didn't miss a chemistry class. I had them sign up for robotics. You know what I'm saying? And when I tell you, one of the greatest things I had when I was at a basketball game at the Pistons, and my son was with me. He was 9 years old. And we sitting down there, and honey, I thought it was big that Aretha Franklin was there. She had on this pink fur. She was on the floor a couple seats from me. I said, look at that's Aretha Franklin. My son said, Mom, who's Aretha? I said, never mind. Right. So during halftime, this man comes down, and he's standing on the side, and he goes, are you Miss Burkett? The first thing I said was, do bill collectors come to the game to get you? Like, what is happening? So I turned him, and I said, hi. I said, yes, I'm Miss Burkett. He said, I just wanted to say thank you. And I said, why? He said, turn around. When I turned around, he said, my two boys are in their second year in the engineering program because of you. They talked about you every day when they came home from school because what they learned in science and math from you. And he said, my wife nor I are in science or mathematics. So we knew it was all you. Those boys were like, hey, Miss Burkett, here go my son. Good job, Mom. You did your job. I was like, this is my Aretha Franklin moment. Are you kidding me? Right. This is what teachers live for. And from that moment on, my son was just like, Mom, that's your job. You did your job. I was just like, you know what? That's all I needed for me to get a pat on the back. So I'm going to say, teachers, we may not get the accolades that we're looking for, but it's those moments right there that when you look at that little baby paycheck, it's worth it. It's worth it. Exactly. All right, ladies, let's get ready for real. All right, ladies, real talk with the CDC. So what I'm going to share with you guys, and we're going to talk about it right after, is what they're saying, what's going on in schools and what we should be doing in relation to the CDC and the classroom. So give me 1 second. This is like the most fun when I can see what everybody else is talking about, right? All right. All right, ladies. So what do you think about that?
Girl,
I like
good
the
and
videos.
bad. On the first day of school, on the very first day of school,
Yeah.
those children were told, stay back 3 feet. I even made up a song. I say toot toot, they say beep beep. I say stay back, they say 3 feet. You know how many times I have to sing that? Oh my gosh. Because the social relationship aspect was missing. So when they
Yes.
saw their friends for the first day, the first week, the first couple of months, they were all in wanting to hug. Hey, girl, you know I called you the other day. Hey, boo. It's like if you don't stand back away from your boo or your girlfriend, move
Right.
out of the way, put some space between your face, honey. But
Because when you don't,
on now.
yeah, because when you don't, it's just a lot. So just real quick, Katrina said, hey, Burkett, I'm just saying hey to you. She agreed with what we were talking about. So I try to make sure when we're talking that we interact with the people who talk to us and share with us. I'm going to tell you right now, ladies, I really thought these would be like awesome videos for schools to show like to their students,
That's
to
what I
their
was going
parents.
to say.
Yeah. Because it really cuts right to the point and it comes directly from the CDC and it's like no questions, right?
Yes.
So our next one is going to talk about the tracker and people want to know why you have to do this or why you have to do that. This is going to talk you straight through the tracker and why we have to actually put in our data. All right, so let's take a look at this
COVID-19 data. It combines county, state, national, and global data from across CDC's COVID-19 response into a series of interactive dashboards. State and local partners send information directly to us. The information is updated frequently. You can visit COVID Data Tracker for the most current data on cases, deaths, hospitalizations, vaccinations, testing, community impact, and more. These data are used by public health officials to make decisions about measures to stop the spread of COVID-19. These data can also help you make decisions as you navigate daily life and special events. As a small business owner, you may decide to require masks in your shop because of increasing cases in your community. As the head of your family, you might look at the COVID-19 spread and vaccination coverage before you travel to a vacation area. As a healthcare worker, you might look at trends in new hospitalizations and disease severity in your state or territory to prepare for increases in patient volume. As a reporter, you may decide to cover a story on health equity in the pandemic and need accurate and credible data to support it. You can also visit COVID Data Tracker to subscribe to a weekly newsletter. The COVID Data Tracker Weekly Review highlights key data and important information and provides a written interpretation of the data along with visualizations from the week. COVID Data Tracker is a resource that has evolved to meet the needs of this pandemic. The amount of data made publicly available through COVID Data Tracker and throughout the COVID-19 response is unprecedented and serves as a model for use in future emergency responses. As you head back to the office, send your kids back to school, make travel plans, or make decisions for your business, visit the home for COVID-19 data. CDC's COVID Data Tracker helps you stay informed.
I'm going to tell you guys that was like a huge eye opener. And I had to tell a friend of mine because they weren't aware of this. And I said to them, it's not for the state of Michigan, it's for us globally to know what's going on. So did you guys know that you had access to that much data that would help you make decisions about what you're doing every day?
I didn't know. Trisha probably knew. She keep up with all of that stuff.
Well, you know,
you have the access.
With my husband being in the field of anti-terrorism and different things of that nature, he keeps me abreast as to what's happening globally. So I applaud him for that. But I will say that having traveled to Hawaii over the summer, I was made privy to some of that information that was shared on the CDC site, which was very helpful because we didn't want to be stuck at the airport, honey, or quarantined in Hawaii, not being able to get to our hotel. So it was very helpful in that regard. And I really appreciate that the first set of videos were very child friendly. Yes. I just pray that the people who would, it just seems like the people who would look at a video are already looking to be well informed. The people that we need to look at the video are the ones shying away from getting the information because a lot of times they're not following basic laws anyway. You're not wearing a seatbelt. We have to remind you, you're already not doing a lot of the things that you should be doing to keep yourself and everyone else around you safe.
Agreed. And that's so amusing to me. And that's why I said this time I actually, instead of just talking about it, I wanted to share videos. So our last video that we're going to take a look at, and again, I try to use a lot that were kid friendly. If you want to see where these videos are located, you can go right to CDC, or you can actually just show this educators roundtable. Okay, so to me, that video made more sense to me than anything else. When people talk the Delta variant and the Mu variant, it's like, okay, what does this mean and how is this going to impact my life? That made it very simple for me. And again, I was a scientist, right? So to me, this is something you can show kids. This is something you can share with families. As to Trisha's point, you know, why you have to wash your hands, why you need to wear a mask all the time, you know, even if you've gotten the vaccination. Because we still have kids, especially at the elementary school level, who cannot get vaccinated yet, right? So
Those
just to keep everybody safe.
Those videos, I think that the district should have had a all call for all parents. Should have had it at every school. All the parents should have came into the auditorium, and you should have shown the videos if they had any questions.
Yeah.
If they had, especially that first video, letting them know what is expected of your child when they come to school. So it wouldn't be, they would be scared to hug their friend, knowing if they needed to be 3 feet apart, but the parents needed to understand it. Then I would still show it in my classroom. We would probably watch it every morning for morning meeting, and to make sure that they understood it, to make sure repetition means retention. The more you do it, the more you retain the information. And so, with each video, it should have been done that way. Even in science, you being a science teacher, that could be a lesson. They can have a test.
Yes.
And they'll be able to help the next person when they go home and talk to their cousins. They be like, no, that the Delta variant means it's going to spread and stop you up. Get away from me. Like, let me put my mask on. No, it's just like a tree, boo. And the branches go off. You know, so they will be able to tell, like, I think they're great. They were great videos, and yes, probably show this video to everybody. But I think that the district should have did like robocalls and had a link to where they could click on and watch these videos.
Yeah,
so they can be informed. We perish for the lack of knowledge. Like they need to know. They just need to know.
I agree with you 100%. I'm glad you like them, because that was the point. I tried to find videos that were easy. We have, and people understand the average person has a 5th grade reading level and comprehension level. So with that being said, you know, CDC has so many videos, but I had to sort through and find the ones that were the best fit, you know, for people who may not be beyond a 5th grade reading level, but still a 3rd grader could get it, right? And like you said, you know, the 3rd grader would say, that variant, it could be a tree situation. The thing said we got to be 3 feet apart. Did you see that video? You know, Jamie, I miss you, but we got to be 3 feet apart. And they would be doing the elbow bumps and stuff like that, you know, to kind of keep themselves safe. So Trisha, what's your thoughts?
Well, the first thing that I want to lift is that the adults have to also follow the guidelines, because I caught myself, right? I was standing and telling the kids, move back 3 feet. You're not 3 feet apart. And then I looked around and I said, wait a minute, you guys, we need to spread out, right? Because as adults, we have a tendency to huddle. We hadn't seen each other either. So I said, hold on now, you got to move back with such and such, because first of all, you were out 2 days. So you really got to move back. Hello. I don't know what you brought in. Hello. So at the end of the day, we have to model what we expect. So that's one thing, that we have to be cognizant of the fact that they are watching us as well as trying to listen to us. I like the videos. First of all, I feel outnumbered because I felt the passion coming through the screen from both Lisa and Christine, because both of you are passionate about science. So I feel, just kind of left alone to myself out here in this world of English. But that's okay. I'm okay with that. So I think I wrote it down so that I can take this information to the teacher in my room that teaches science, because they definitely need to know that information about the variant.
Yeah, I think that's a really awesome video for them to use. Okay, so we have Katrina Clark. Katrina Clark says, got you, run. Ladies, keep up the great work. Burkett, I will share this on my Facebook page. See you on your next live broadcast. As you always said, continue to be outstanding. Great job, y'all. That was like my thing. Continue to be outstanding.
Thank you, Ms. Clark.
I know, Clark, you're outstanding. Okay, let me just say, Nicole, really? That's what you come with, a happy face? I shouldn't even have shown it.
That's my new friend.
Nicole, I just want to say, BFF, Nicole, that's what you're doing. Nicole, I'm going to have to get back to you on that one. You put in a smiley face. Okay, so ladies, for our next session, and I'm going to say, I'm just having such a good time with you. Shannon, if you're watching, my co-host, you better watch out. These ladies are outstanding. That's all I got to say, Shannon. So we got to take a quick commercial break, but while we're doing that, I want us to be prepared to talk about what's happening in the classroom.
Okay.
Okay, guys, welcome back to Educators Roundtable. If you missed the first segment, you missed a great conversation around 3 questions for school districts to talk about what are you doing to keep your students safe, from social distancing to hand washing. What are you doing to engage your students and support your teachers in the classroom when they're basically entertainers? They've gone from being entertainers to educators, to being a project manager, to being the person who gives away hugs virtually to all of their students. They're also doing online tutoring after hours. They're buying their kids headsets and meeting them at the mall so they can make sure that they have what they need in order to be supported at home. I'm going to say right now, educators, when they say our health providers are the superstars, I think our educators are superstars as well. In our second segment, we really talked about some of the opportunities that the CDC has out there to educate everyone, where there's no guessing. It's simple, really simple videos that you can share with your team. And I'll be sure to post those for you guys so you can get them from the PICF Facebook site, YouTube, LinkedIn, all of our social media sites, because I want to make sure that information's out there, or you can share this episode. So let me welcome back my guest today. So Lisa, you're back. I'm really excited. Trisha, you're back. We get to talk about the thing that we love most as educators, and that's really talking about this one thing. So, education has done like a total 360. And I'm going to tell you, working in corporate, I worked at GM and we were already doing Zoom meetings and stuff like that way before classrooms were doing it. So when I went back into education, I kept trying to figure out, why are we always going to these conferences when we can just have virtual meetings, right? Why are we always going to Lansing? That's a long drive. We can just join in. So, but now, as of 2018, 2019, everyone's doing everything virtually. Right? So teachers are now put into a situation where they're doing traditional, hybrid, or total virtual. So what's you guys thought on that before we share our videos on hybrid teaching? What's your thoughts on it?
Go ahead, Trish.
Well, as Lisa spoke of before earlier in the show, it's a difficult thing to manage. So we have some students who prefer, or some parents who prefer that their child is educated virtually for various reasons. A lot of them are fearful of their children contaminating COVID. They have several children in the school. which means their chances of catching COVID are higher, right? And bringing it home. So what I find myself doing and trying to balance is, first of all, taking vitamins.
Mhm.
Secondly, is making sure I beef up my exercise regimen so that I can have enough energy to sustain myself. But
Mhm.
also, it comes back to preparation.
Mhm.
So I have to be prepared for how to engage the online student as well as the virtual student, and sometimes simultaneously, as Lisa already touched on. But I think for me, it provides a sense of security if I know that I can teach my students from the screen
Mhm.
in moments where I think COVID might be higher after holidays, right? Some after weekends, depending upon. I ask my students, "What's going on weekend? What are you?" I'm listening. Somebody said, "I'm
Mhm.
going to a party. I'm going to sleep over my auntie's house. I'm going to my grandmother's house." So, as an educator and as an individual person, I'm listening to all of that data, and I'm thinking to myself, "Wow, Mondays can be really tough." What I can say that I'm grateful that my district is doing is they're doing weekly COVID testing.
Love it.
That has been a blessing to me, and it has provided a
Mhm.
sense of comfort for a lot of the educators because
Mhm.
we're able to find out what we're up against, right? We're
Right.
not going in blindly. So hybrid is difficult, but it does make sure that our educators feel a sense of security in doing the job you have already attested to on the front line of this
Mhm.
vaccine and of this COVID disease and pandemic.
I absolutely love it. I'm going to tell you, it's tough, and I know it's tough. Before we went full virtual, I was one of those teachers where I was doing interactive teaching with students who had special
Mm-hmm.
needs, and that was for science.
Oh,
They were in another classroom. They were actually in the building, but because they had autism, they couldn't be around other kids. But they had to take a
right.
science class, and they chose me. And at first, I thought it was so taxing, but I learned so much for them. And finally, it got to the point where the autistic kids said, they used to say, "Call me science lady. Can we just come to your classroom so we can be with the other kids?" And then I said, "Well, okay." So when I brought them to the classroom, I introduced all the students to them, and I said, "But they still have parameters." So what I did was I took their computer stations and put them in my classroom in a section so they could still be in the room with us, but not a part of the entire moment. Because with autism, everybody has different learning needs. And some of them didn't want to be
Mm-hmm,
touched or in
mm-hmm.
a crowd. But I'm going to tell you, those
Yes,
kids, even now
yes.
today, when I see them, they go, "There's that science teacher lady." That's okay. They don't know my name. I'm okay with that. But the thing is that I'm glad when I see them because their parents are like, my kid, one of them, he manages at a grocery store. He manages the cleanup, and he tells people that the certain amount of measurement you need to put a certain amount of water. And I said, she says, he learned that from you because he came home and he told me, "Mom, you're not diluting this enough with water. It has to be a certain percentage, like the teacher lady says." And I said, "Oh my goodness." And she said, "Yeah." So now he's over janitorial services at a grocery store, and he has autism. So I love that. So it's those moments where you say to yourself,
Wow.
"I don't know, maybe this is a special moment," right? So,
Mm-hmm.
Lisa, what's your thoughts before we show this video?
Okay, so you were talking about virtual in school learning. I still think everything is built upon relationships,
Mhm.
honestly. Even the virtual, I mean, even the hybrid where you're doing both, if you have a good relationship with the parents and the parents are able to communicate it with the kids what they need to do to be successful online,
Yeah.
I believe it can happen. It's just the dynamics of our
Right.
community to where it slows us down in mama and daddy have to work.
Yes.
5 kids in the house. You need 5 computers, all of them under the age of 8,
Mhm.
and you got the 13-year-old staying home from school to watch. It's just
It's
so
a
many.
lot.
We don't want to leave the kids behind. We
Right.
want to have a solution for each one. We
Right.
love all of our kids. I have a special ed certification as well. I didn't mention that. So I do understand the autistic and, they learn differently. Some of them don't. I understand all of that. And that's really hard to teach them
Yeah,
hybrid because they need the one-on-one.
they
Some
do.
kids in their IEPs
Right.
you have to have somebody right there or they're going to miss their hours that are federally
Yes,
mandated. So it's a lot that
a
goes
lot.
into what your life is worth more than
Right.
honestly education.
It
You
is.
don't want to put their
Right.
lives on the line either. So
Right.
it's kind of a catch-22, like you said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It's parents versus district versus
Yes.
what's best for my kids. Should I put them in school? Should I keep them home? If I keep them home, they're gonna be with the boyfriend that wearing drawers, walking around. It's I get I can't. I just can't. I'm
It's so
trying
much.
to aid you here. I'm trying to do it. It's just gets to be so frustrating as a concerned teacher, as a concerned parent, trying to do what thus says the Lord when it comes to his babies.
Yes.
And so that's where I am. I think it can be done. I just think, like you said, the parenting classes, I remember we used to offer them at our school.
Yes.
2 or 3 parents would show up.
Yeah.
Every
That's
week,
right.
we had every Wednesday, 2 parents, the same 2 parents. And it's just like, what do you do?
What do you do to get the other ones in? And that's where a lot of
And
them
they
are at. They're offering them
listen.
different things.
They
Right?
had a parent home visit program where they were paying teachers to go into the homes. I said no, and I wrote our superintendent, pay the parent of the school, need
Yeah.
them here with that 5th grade education. Let's work with them and let them see how we deliver instruction. Let them see how we go
Yes.
over the lessons. And I want to say, is anybody really thinking how to revolutionize education? Because Lisa would tell you all the time so many ideas. You need to school.
Yeah.
Trisha, you need to do this. Trisha, that all there are so many things that we could do if we didn't have the oversight
Yes.
of state government, of federal government. If people would move out of the way and let us do what we do and deliver instruction the way that we know how to do it, our students would soar. Absolutely soar.
I'm going to tell you, and I'm one of those people. I do believe in, how can I say, a visual concept or a process, right, in order to do this. But when you restrict the way that I'm teaching to the point where it impacts my kids in a negative way, then sometimes you need to take a second look, right, at
Amen.
what it is that you're restricting me from doing.
Exactly.
And so that's the thing where I kind of push back
Yeah.
all the time. So I'm going to say I'm 100% in agreement with you guys. We want to show this quick video. So everyone at home, if you're having a problem with understanding how to do hybrid, this guy is going to take you through it, and we're going to show you one teacher who actually put it to work in her classroom.
Part 2 really of the hybrid classroom. In part 1, I showed you how you can use your computer to present presentations in the classroom if you've got students in class as well as online. Okay, so what we're going to do in today's video to set up a hybrid classroom is we're going to connect to a Google Meet or a Zoom or a Cisco WebEx on 2 devices, okay? One's going to be your host device, and then you're going to log it in as yourself again on a second device to show your whiteboard. A lot of lessons are using a whiteboard, okay, or you might be doing a lab test, okay, something in your lab, a science lab. So you do need to see like the physical demonstration. In today's video, though, we're going to show you like how we can utilize the whiteboard, teaching online as well as in the classroom, a hybrid lesson. So what I'll do first is I'm going to log into this device. I'm just going to log in to start a meeting now. And make sure when I start a meeting that I'm going to give this meeting a nickname, okay? So just for convenience sake, let's just say hello one, and let's join that meeting. Let's wait for it to load up. So I'm going to do the same thing now to a second device. I'm just going to do this on my iPad. You can do this on your smartphone, whatever secondary device you're going to have. One thing to be sure of, though, is that on your secondary device, make sure that it's at eye level, or it's at least at a level where you can present the board clearly, okay? So what I'm going to be doing here is, if you're using a smartphone, just use a tripod or something. If you're using a computer or a laptop, you can choose, you can use one of these things. The best thing that I found is, get a stationary box, an old empty cardboard box, and just use that to prop up your computer. So here I'm going to be propping up my iPad in this case. So here we go. I'm going to log into Google Meet, and I'm going to log in using the same code that I logged in with before, okay? So let's go ahead and go to Google Meet. And remember, I'm going to be joining the meeting this time. So type in the hello one, and then you can join with that meeting code. Make sure that the camera is on, but maybe the mic is off, okay? Let's go ahead and join that meeting. Now, once you've joined that meeting, you want to turn this camera around to your back-facing camera. You can do this as well on any smartphone, whether it's Android or it's an iPhone. What to do, you can go ahead and you can switch the camera around, okay? Google is always updating Google Meet. Right now, you can see that the camera switch button is up here, okay? So you're going to have to navigate and find where it is on your device. You can see now, my camera view is using the back screen. So I can now adjust this where I've got this fully in the frame. So I'm happy with that. That's fully in the frame. This is the view that I'm getting from this camera. So if I quickly scoot over, and I'm now doing my lesson, okay, or doing my science lab or whatever, I'm doing it on the board. As I'm writing, okay, the students online can see. Now, the benefit of this is my students in my class are obviously engaged as well. I can engage with my students at the same time with students that are online. Now, remember, I have logged into both devices. I would get them to pin that screen, okay, so they can always see this. At the same time, I've got my second device here. I don't even need this camera on. This is the host device's camera. I can turn this camera off, okay? And what I can do, and what I would get students to do, is I would get them to pin this, my secondary device. I'll pin that to the board. So I can see the messages here. I can see who's here. I can take my attendance. If I enable grid view, I can see all of my other students as well. Okay, so I would see all of the range of my students. I can continue to engage with students online. The whole point of it is to engage with the students that are in my class, as well as those students that are online. So this is a very useful hybrid classroom setup, okay? All you need is a secondary device.
So, guys, I thought that was the simplest way. I have gone all across every school district that I contract with to show them that setup and how simple it is to teach kids in your classroom and kids online at the same time. The challenges that I found working in IT were not the teachers. It was the school district supplying the teachers with 2 devices. That's where the hang-up was. And I tried to explain to them, a teacher can't teach a hybrid class with 1 device. And why should you expect them to use up their data, right? In order to do this. So that was like one of the major things. So seeing him do that, it just made it very simple. The next one I want to share with you guys is a teacher who actually did it in her classroom with kids, and you can see what she's doing. And I thought this was so beneficial for teachers who were looking at, well, how do I really do this? And I'm doing it for kids at home and here. So here's the teacher. And you can take a look at what she did.
We're on to, in question number 1, find 55% of 140. And so what did you come up with as your answer for number 1? McKenna. 77 is correct. So yesterday we talked about the fact that you can write 55% as a decimal and multiply it by the 140 to get McKenna's answer of 77. We also talked about the fact that a percent really means per 100. So per 100 in this case means you're dividing by 100. 55 divided by 100 is how you get that decimal equivalent of 55 hundredths. And so 77 is correct for number 1. Henry, you have a question? No, that's it. We did not have to show our work on last night's homework, but for tonight's homework we do. Okay. All right, so for question number 2, we want to find 40% of 123. And so what do you get as an answer for number 2? Henry?
I got 49.2.
49.2 is correct. And the directions say round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. In this case, it was not necessary because we got our answer exactly.
Okay, so we look at that. The reason why they had to glare out the student is because, of course, it was a student. But did you see how that student used their camera so kids who were at home could see that it was him answering the question? And how that teacher used, honestly, and that's the thing, if we're using the right technology, and that was simply placement of a camera. She shared her screen like I shared my screen, and she was able to work with the kids at home and also the kids in the classroom.
She was actually checking a paper. They were going over like a homework. That wasn't actually teaching a lesson. So when you ask the kids, you have a question, and you have 3 questions in the class, and you got 6 questions online that they're typing or that they're talking, and then you have to try to answer their questions, plus turn around and try to, it's just still a lot of work to be able to give them the attention individual attention that they need. And you got really online, they ask a lot of questions. You
They
don't want
do.
them speaking out, so you have them type the questions. So that means you have to stop looking at the class, stop
Yes.
teaching your lesson to go to the computer.
Mm-hmm.
One question might take you 3 minutes to answer that one question, but you still got 4 people with their hands up over there, and then you got 5 other questions on your screen. It's still
Yes.
difficult,
So what?
challenging, but not impossible, but it just still seems a little bit challenging.
So I'm going to tell you 2 things I say to school districts. The teacher, she was actually teaching a lesson. So when you're teaching a lesson and you're going through how to solve problems in mathematics, and that's why the kids say, well, do we still have to show our work? She says, well, not on this homework, but on your homework tonight you do, right? So she was going through and showing them. So what she did is she took a regular assignment, a PDF document, and she was able to put it on her whiteboard, which is a program, and then write on top of it. But to your point, and I've said this to school districts several times, please give your teachers paraprofessionals if they're going to do hybrid teaching, because your parents should be in comments doing your commenting so you can, because they can say, oh, Christina's raising her hand. He wants to know, Miss Trisha, how did you do that problem? And then Miss Trisha say, oh, okay, Christine, let me go back. But there's no way that I can stop teaching the way she was teaching and go read comments and then come back to us. And then you got the kids in the classroom, they raising it. It's too much. It's too much. Right? And so the thing is, in order to do that,
Christine, all of the other interruptions that occur within the confines of a school day, people calling over the PA, students needing to go to the restroom, students coming in late, students having to leave early. It's just a lot of different dynamics.
It's a lot.
You know what I mean?
And that's the reason why I say this was the time for parents to really come into the classroom and help. Those volunteer hours should have been mandatory for parents during this time. You got to come in. The teachers need help. If you want your kid to come to school, somebody in your family has to come to school for 2 hours.
Exactly.
So we need a total of 10 hours from you.
I don't understand how we're still experiencing a working shortage or a shortage of workers, and parents still say they can't come into the school. What are you doing? People are not at work. Where are you? So if you're not at work because there's a shortage, then that means you have to be at home.
You're at home.
And the stores are not well stocked, so you're not out shopping. Get into school where we need you.
Get into schools where we need you. And that's the hot topic. I'm going to tell you, every school I go into, how to get the parents into the school. How do we get the parents to understand we need them? And I said, you know what? That's like a larger conversation. We need to talk to the parents and find out, why don't they want to come? I need to figure out why you're not as engaged in your students' education as I am. Like, why do you not understand? So I asked one parent, and the only thing I could say to her was, by the way, she was a stripper. She showed up to the school. She got off from work because her student was being suspended. Her kid was being suspended. And she showed up with her trench coat on. And all the guys knew that she was a stripper at the club. So I said to her, one, I thank you for coming up here because of the urgency. But it would have been nice if you had a jogging suit on or something other than your outfit you just jumped off the stage. I said, one, your child is now embarrassed that everybody knows that his mother is a performer. Right?
Absolutely.
But I appreciate you coming up. I said, so let's go down to my office where you and I can have a conversation. Now, what I found out was the mother had applied for jobs but couldn't get one. She said, I have to keep a roof over my kid's head. It's just me and him. All I had was to go to the poll. So those are the conversations where I kept saying, talk to your parents and find out what's really going on.
Relationship building. Yes.
It's the relationship. Because after I talked to her, you know what I did? I got on the phone and helped her find another job because
come on,
and guess what she did? Then she came into the school and volunteered.
Yes, you planted that seed.
And that's what you got to do. And I keep telling people, you want to teach our kids in urban education, you got to talk to the parents and find out, why aren't they coming? There's a reason. You may not know the reason, but there's a reason. So one of the things I suggest to all school districts, do Facebook Live. Tell your parents, join us on our Facebook site. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about that. We're going to give you resources. You don't know how to use your kid's laptop? Join us every Wednesday night at 8:00. We're going to show you how to use the kids. Why do they have to join a Zoom call? You have Facebook, just do Facebook Live. And help the parents get what they need. So I'm going to tell you, ladies, I've had so much fun with you. Trisha and Lisa, you're going to have to come back.
We
Shannon,
will.
I just want to say, Shannon, he had an emergency dealing with education issues in New York. I'm going to say to you, Shannon, you better watch out. Trisha and Lisa, they're rock stars. I'm going to have to invite you guys back because I love what you're doing. I think it's great. I love all the time to showcase teachers and educators who are doing amazing things, because people need to know across America, if you want to invest in something, invest in teachers, not
Yeah.
just education, invest in teachers.
Yeah.
Always say the petty cash.
Invest in teachers.
Teachers should have petty cash just to do what you guys did to go get headsets for their kids. I don't
Right.
understand why teachers don't, and not the stipend that they give you. It should just be petty cash for
Right.
third grade. It's the things that you don't know that you need to help a
That's
kid.
right. That's
Mhm.
right.
Right? So
Mhm.
those are the things that I look at. But I want to say thank you guys so much for coming on Educators
Thank you for having
Roundtable.
us.
You
Thank
guys
you for
are
having
rock
us.
stars. I
Thank
love it.
you.
And I'm definitely going to be inviting you guys back. So if you guys can just give me a minute to close out the show.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm going to say to you guys, as we close out Educators Roundtable, everyone is welcome. I love when you guys sign up to be guests on the shows. I love when you watch, and I love when you leave comments. This is an interactive show where educators can talk about hot topics and give their opinion. And this is real world conversations. The point of this podcast is to help other educators, but not only that, for kids and students and parents to understand where we are and what we do in education and how we need their support to be more effective in the classroom. So again, I want to thank you for watching this session of Educators Roundtable, and join us again next week where we're going to be talking about effective communication and etiquette for our students, how to prepare them for today, tomorrow, and for the future.